Jaguar, would I ever go all software and not miss hardware? I mean, it can be done. You can get a great sound with all software, but I find that staying in the hardware realm, it has a lot of benefits. You know, the thing about hardware, when you're in the hardware software realm, there are a lot of benefits to a hybrid setup. For one, when you have hardware and you're going into something like Ableton, you're not using much CPU. You're literally recording audio into your session. So lower CPU means more effects plugins, more tracks. Generally, you have more leeway to be creative. Also with hardware, when you have an analog synth or something like that, it really does give you a different sound. And when you're hands-on with your analog synth, you can really dial in something unique and something different. When you're in the software realm, you can edit it, but there is a difference. There is that tactile feel to something hardware. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't make crazy beats 100% in software. I made beats 100% in software for a very, very long time. Have my beats gotten better since I went hardware? Probably not because of hardware. I think I've gotten better over time and I've incorporated different tools to bring into my workflow. But hardware does not make you a better producer. Hardware is just something that you can add in once you want to experiment with your workflow, once you want to try something different. So there is some magic that hardware brings, but there's also magic that software brings. And there are plugins that you cannot get in the hardware realm. There are synths that you cannot get in the hardware realm. But if you're already completely in the box and you're a professional at this and you're making some money off of this, pick up a hardware synth. One thing you could start with is the Korg Minilog or the Dave Smith Tetra. Those are a couple of my first synths. Something simple. I find that when you bring hardware into your flow, like a hardware synth or something like that, it definitely brings another element, even sonically. Once you bring some analog frequencies into your mix, it does change the sound. Think about it. If you have mostly software, bringing in one hardware element can really take it to another level. Same thing if you have mostly hardware, bringing a couple software elements can help bring it to another level. Software is definitely fully capable and you can do everything you want to do in the software world, but once you bring that analog hardware into the mix, it does add another flavor. Same thing with processing. Software plugins and effects and everything have gotten really good processing-wise. There's so many good plugins. That's why I made a plugin. I made the plugin Knock for your drum bus. It makes your drums hit hard. There's nothing in the analog world like it. But there are other hardware pieces that there's nothing in the software world like it. There's nothing like real tubes in hardware. There's software that emulates it, but it's not quite there yet. Running it through real analog tubes heats it up in a certain way, affects the audio in such a certain way that you can't really get that all the time in the box. So I find that a hybrid between software and hardware, it's a match made in heaven. For example, a lot of pro studios, they will run their microphone through a Neve preamp and something like a TubeTech CL1B, especially in hip hop for vocals. That's pretty much what I have. I have a Louder Than Liftoff. It works as a preamp. It's actually a Neve emulation preamp. It sounds amazing. And I have my mic running from there into the Distressor, into the TubeTech CL1B. All hardware. They make software emulations of the Neve, of the Distressor, of the CL1B, and they all sound good. You can definitely get an amazing result in the software world. But once you get into hardware, there is 10% improvement. There's a small improvement in what you get with the hardware. That doesn't mean if you don't have all the hardware that you shouldn't still make amazing records. There are producers who make amazing records 100% in the box, with a worse interface than you have. Whatever you have, make the most of it. I started making records on a $50 mic, not even as good as this. This is a Shure SM58. I think it's like $100. I had a $50 Radio Shack mic and I was making songs off of that on a 4-track tape deck. All I have to say is if you have a computer and if you have an audio interface, whether it's a $50 interface, a $100 interface, you are better off, way better off than we were in the home studio days when we first started recording with 4-track tapes and all that. Whatever you have, use it to the fullest and you can make great records with whatever you have. Ableton, FL Studio, Pro Tools, Logic, GarageBand, whatever you have, you can make dope songs. It's all about what's in your head. And then as you get better, you start adding more tools and those tools can help expand your musical vocabulary.